So I went upstairs, went into my room, got a bottle of Triavil. There are about 48 Triavil tablets, which are a tranquilizer, but they have a fairly strong antidepressant in them. And I had about 10 Valium 5s and another bottle, so I got those and got a very large glass of water and sat down on my bed, and I guess relatively calmly through the crying, sat and took the whole bottle of Triavil and I guess about 6 or 7 of the Valium. That's the last thing I remember, except for waking up in the hospital.
When we were grown and ready to take on the world with a song, but now the tune is one you can't remember.
In my opinion, the first cause of death in adolescence would be suicides. Once you recognize that you didn't live, you lived, and you're going to die, then you carry that potential with you. And all of us have the potential for self-destruction, for suicide. We all have to cope with it. We all have feelings about it. We all have thoughts about it. The depression is a substitute also for hurting herself.
My whole appearance. Usually I'll put makeup on, but I won't put a lot on. I'll just put some makeup on, some lipstick, and I'll dress in my jeans. Usually if I'm depressed, I've got jeans on. I won't get overly dressed up because I don't feel confident enough to get overly dressed up or to wear a lot of makeup or do something with my hair. I'll just leave my hair as it is, give it a quick brush. If it's not curled, I won't bother curling it. If it's curled, well, that's fine. I won't straighten it either. I'll just leave it the way it is. Throw a shirt on usually and a pair of jeans, and that's about it.
I think what Janice is seeking is some kind of an escape. She goes through a ritualized preparation for the day that in everybody is designed to take us from a state of total withdrawal, total isolation, and hook us in to different things that are happening around us. I always look at depressions in terms of their usefulness. They're a tool for us. Depression is a device that we learn to use in life. And I always ask about depressions, is the depression standing for something else? That is, if I wasn't depressed now, what would I be? And very often the depression can stand for all manner of aggressive behavior that you don't do, but that's your primary wish to do. And you block it, and the depression takes its place. So the depression is the consequence of your not doing something that would be much worse than depression.
Well, I'm a very moody person. I can go from extremes. I can go from one extreme to the other, usually very quickly, too. I don't think about anything. I try not to think about anything if I'm depressed. I don't want to think about happy things because I'm not happy, but then on the other hand, I don't want to think about sad things that are going to make me worse. So I go around in a daze sort of thing. Like, I don't try to concentrate on one particular thing.
Once you become conscious of the fact that once I didn't exist, then I did exist, and now I'm going to perish at some point that I don't know, that is a depressing, despairing kind of reality that every young person goes through. Everybody plays with life and death on one level or another. That's part of the nature of our existence. But everybody plays on this little tightrope between life and death.
I'll go along really slowly, like to get out, but I have to kind of push myself out so that I'm not just sitting at the house, in the house, doing nothing and wasting away. So that my mind can really think about things. Like I have to just go out and wander around, or go for a walk, or walk the dog, or I can't read a book or anything because I can't concentrate on it. If I'm in a mood like that, I can't sit and concentrate on a book or a good movie and get involved in it, so it's better just to walk around and do, just don't think about anything, just walk around. Think about only what you see, and that's that.
I went out with a guy about a year ago, and he really got me down in some ways. He was into drugs and motorcycle racing. He'd been in jail and out of jail for about 7 or 8 years. He was older than I was by about 4 or 5 years. We sort of broke up. He went into a psychiatric hospital, and I sort of said, this is the end. A few months later, and found out that he'd drowned during the summer. I hadn't seen him for about 2 or 3 months. And the thought that the guy's just not around anymore, it just won't stay in my head. I've seen people on the street and turned around and said, that has to be him. And just sort of refused to accept the fact that he is gone. I believe that, one day he's going to show up at my door again. It was a bad time, but it sort of helped me to grow up, to realize that there's nothing you can do to help a person unless they want to help themselves. And he helped me in the way that he helped me to grow up. A way that I can get out of depression by writing about it. And it just sort of, after you've written pages and pages, you're not depressed anymore. It's just, it goes away.
Margaret reminds me of, we bring into our present life, our childhood, and we don't always know it. In fact, most of the time we don't know it at all, and we act like our childhood is something of the past. But what happened to us in our childhood governs how we think and how we act. The wish fulfillment kind of thinking that she has about her boyfriend who was drowned, and her knowing that she's going to come back, that she's going to see him, that's the typical childhood wish that we have when we lose something. Why can't it come back?
I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. Get my lovin' on the
The whole bad scene, like these hassles with my parents and the whole family sort of falling to pieces, started when I was 14, and my little brother then was 11, and like he was going through, I don't know what he was going through, he was always throwing temper tantrums, the whole bit of, what he did actually was try to strangle himself with his own hands, and which just doesn't work, because when you start to pass out, your hands relax and you start breathing again. But I don't think he realized that at the time. He wasn't thinking straight. I was just going out to see what, just to travel around to try to be by myself for a while. Like, I didn't tell them I was running away from them or anything like that. I guess I really wasn't. I was running away from the situation rather than just them. Yeah, around that time I was like into drugs fairly heavily. Like, well, not to excess. I wasn't addicted to anything, but I was doing acid once in a while. Smoking up practically every day. When I'm feeling down, quite often, like a friend of mine and I usually get together a lot and we jam. Like, I play guitar and I can really get out of anything. I can block anything out of my mind when I'm playing my guitar practically. That is I guess that's an escape too, but we all need escapes.
Get my loving on the
We find in Tony another thing that is important to remember. Everybody has their moments of despair and their moments of depressions and their sense of futility in the situation that they're in, and they struggle to find ways to deal with it. He found that the running in itself isn't the solution, but it opened up vistas to him that he didn't know existed before. That's why I think it's good to say, do this, and do that. Keep on pressuring kids who are feeling morbid and futile and hopeless and despairing to try all kinds of things, because in the process it may not be the answer, but they may discover other vistas that they hadn't known about before.
Yeah, my first intent is to get out of the house and go shopping and buy something I'm gonna like, but I never do that because I'll try on clothes or something and I look at myself and you look ugly in that, so I won't buy anything. So that I don't feel really depressed for a wasted day, I might buy frilly underwear or something really stupid. You know, something I don't need, something I've got a whole 2 drawers filled with. From days I've been depressed and bought all this underwear. But I won't buy, like I won't go out and buy an expensive outfit or even new jeans, because by the time I get them home I won't like them. For the simple reason I don't really like myself when I'm depressed, so anything I buy looks terrible. I don't like it.
It's a long-term down when somebody dies, you know. I was 17 when my mother found out she had cancer. When she knew she was going down for the last time. Well, she was only my mother was ill for 7 weeks before she died. It was they phoned her up on New Year's Eve and told her, goodbye, lady. And 7 weeks later she was dead. You know, it was that fast.
It would have been very good for somebody just to talk to Mary about the fact that she has nothing to do with her mother's death. It's hard for you to live, hard for a person to live with that feeling that I had something to do with the person's death. So instead of it being that honest and direct, it always gets distorted a little bit. And you say, well, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye in the way I wanted to, or the last time I talked to the person, I yelled at them. And that's another way of saying I feel a little guilty about what happened to that person, and I feel a little bit like I'm to blame. Now, it's almost impossible to lose somebody close to you and not feel that.
Well, I think the best way to work yourself out of a depression is to go into yourself and really look at what you're being depressed about. And is it really important? Do I really have no way out? Am I boxing myself in by my own solutions? I find, especially when you're sharing it with someone like Rick, you find that you have got an infinite number of solutions. But what you're doing is you're rejecting all the possible ones. You're always saying, no, I can't, no, I can't, no, I can't, getting yourself more depressed when actually you can. There's always a way out. There's always a way out.
Yeah, well, to get out of a depressed feeling, you can feel them coming on. I'll go into an empty room and just scream until I get it all out, you know. For me, depression is a lot of emotion and a lot of inner energy that's just dying to get out. So I have to find some place to get rid of it. I usually phone Mary up now. She's become quite a crutch to me. Well, not a crutch. I'm very dependent on her, you know, for her to say, you know, well, this is what I think. You can tell yourself anything and believe it. But later, in the daylight, the truth is out when she'll come up and say something. She'll say, that's a lie. I don't think that's true. And then I have to reconsider it. And eventually I hope to find, you know, what I am, really, the truth.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Once it was love, and we live on a shoestring, but they don't give no mortgage on a castle in the air. Two old friends of mine, a dripping tap and a broken old chair. And if I read
Many times you're depressed and don't know it. Depression isn't always going around with a sad face. Very often depression can be disguised by the opposite to what we think of as depressive. A kind of mania, manicness, where there's laughter and gaiety, talking, sociability, apparent sociability, but not the closeness, you know. What defeats depression is those things that you do that bring you intimate affiliation.
The only way to get out of depression is to look at what you've got, be honest with yourself, make a list, make a 5 or 10 different ways you can get out of it, and then do it. You know, don't just put up with the situation, because if it's getting you down now, it'll get you down 6 months from now. I personally allow myself. Like, depression is a very selfish thing. You allow yourself to sink into it. You usually realize when you're starting to become depressed, you know that that's what's happening. And it's a question of whether you let yourself sink a little bit deeper, or you say, okay, this is it, I won't put up with this, and climb out. And I started doing it because it was ridiculous. I was going to end up a suicide. Really, I was, because I get so depressed, and instead of considering what I could do about a situation, I'd say, well, I'll kill myself and get out of it. That would be the easy way. I'll shoot myself in the sewage plant park, or something original like that. And really, it's no solution at all.
I find that when I'm skiing, I get totally free from all the problems that I'd be having at home. Problems, you know, there's no hassle from teachers, and no parent problems, none of that sort of thing. I'm out there doing exactly what I want to do on my own time, and I'm enjoying myself. If you're doing what you want to do, and my feeling is that most of my depressions come from pressure from other people, and without the pressures, the depression goes away.
You'll come to your limit almost. You'll find your outer limits, and yet there's always one step further. You know you can always push yourself one step further, and it's a little more training, a little more time, but it's always there, and you can always go further because there's no limit.
Who took the laughter and the times? We said what we were gonna do when we were grown and ready to take.
Depression relates to difficulties in the development of the self, in self-image, self-value, which happens before you have language. If you feel, well, I'm not all that hot to begin with, then adolescence becomes a very torturous kind of journey in which you have to make your way from a situation where you're cared for and protected, even though you don't think you're all that hot, to a situation where nobody's going to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to do it with what you are.
the last thing I remember was sitting on my bed taking the pills. And my parents really don't know if I passed out for a while or what happened, but I got into their room and I was screaming and I was shaking. And one minute I was cold and the next minute I was hot and I was sweating and holding my stomach and really, really hysterical, screaming at them that I tried to kill myself and that I had taken pills, and I just kept screaming for my mommy. I wanted my mommy. Myself, I feel like your parents can't run your life for you. No one can really run your life, and if you bomb out on it, then that's your fault. You have to learn from your mistakes.
I just want to walk around the world with you, seeing things with the same eyes, feeling the cries of the earth beneath our feet, trying to make ends meet. I just want to be one with you, to have fun with you. You know, all I gotta do is have me in my arms, and our hearts will pass by like the clouds in the sky. Me, oh my.
At heart in these kids there is a great longing for an intimacy that they had a taste of, but that is now not being represented by the relationships that they have. However much they may work in their head to make them like that, and I think all of these kids are working hard to make present relationships be significant enough. But there is a hunger for an intimacy that isn't there, a more basic intimacy that has to do with not having to think, not having to plan, not having to care. That kind of existence that comes when you're totally cared for by someone who loves you because they think you're precious.
Day I die, me oh my, me oh my.
Depression is a personal thing, and it has meaning and usefulness and significance.
Somewhere out there, right beside me, it's all inside me, anyway.
So if you don't like being depressed, then you gather with others and you talk and you share and you do things. But in addition to that, you can find help in any number of organized facilities that specialize in depression.
But usually by the end of the day, I'm pretty well out of it, as long as I have something to do that night. Or usually one of my really close friends can try and talk me out of it, you know, if I'm not by myself.
One more!